Hello guys, and welcome to this new video. I know it's been quite a long time since last one, but I've been very busy with work. Anyway, sorry about that. This is what we are going to be creating today. This effect is inspired by the latest Texturelab tutorial, which you guys have been requesting to me if I was going to make a version for Fusion. At the beginning I actually didn't want to, because if I'm going to create some procedural fire or some kind of simulation, I probably wouldn't choose 2D to do so. But anyway, at the end of the day, I thought that it could be a great place to share some interesting technique, and so here I am. Okay, let's get started. We have this PNG dragon that I downloaded from the internet. Let's add a crop node here, and in the crop node we want to check the keep centered box, and once it's checked and it's in place, let's uncheck the keep centered. Oh, by the way, let's make this 100 frame, and maybe we want to add a transform node between the PNG dragon and the crop node. Move to the first frame, add a keyframe on the size, and do something like so. Move to the last frame, yeah, something like that. Let's move into the spline editor, select our keyframe and ease them. Okay, so now we want to add a custom tool, and in the channel tab we want to type in 1 times A1. Let's copy those and paste them in all the channels, so we have this kind of effect here. Okay, let's move on, adding a fast noise, and for this one we want to scale it up to 18, crank up the detail to 10, and then we want to add some animation here. So I'm going to use an expression, and I'm going to type math.rad open brackets time divided by 2 close brackets. So as you can see, we are adding some nice Y movement, and we want to also add some CD rate. Let's go for 0.2 here. And of course we want to check the discontinuous and inverted. Now we want to add a displace node and connect the fast noise. After the fast noise, let's add a create bump map. Let's crank it to 2 here, and into the displace we want to move to XY. Use the offset to -0.5 to normalize this bump map input. Link the Y refraction to the X refraction using an expression, and then we want to tweak the value so that we see some roughening of the edges of our dragon. Okay, let's add a depth blur right after the displace and connect the fast noise. In the depth blur we want to use the Luma channel, and let's crank it a little bit so. Okay, now here comes the fun part. We want to use the slope in order to add some nice behavior on the noise, and for that we want to view the noise, and then we want to add a blur node, and after that we want to add a custom tool and call this one blue solid. And so we want to go into the channel tab, type 0 0 1 1, and this is what we get. We want to add another custom tool, and this one is going to be called slope. So if you want to know more about this slope technique, I highly suggest you to have a look at this very interesting post on WisacLess by Theo. As you can see, the result using this technique are super interesting. There's a little bit of math involved in this, but yeah, bear with me a little bit. Okay, so in the intermediate tab, we want to type in N1, which is this control here, numbering 1, divided by width. And in the intermediate 2, we want to type in N1 divided by height. So in the channel tab, we want to type get R1 W X Y minus get R1 W X minus I1 comma Y. I'm going to copy this and paste it into the green channel. We want to type 0 here and 0 here. So let's have a look at here. Doesn't look to be happening much, but if we move here, you see something starts to happen. Okay, so now we want to go into the config tab and create a little bit of a proper controller here. Let's remove everything, go into the numbering 1 and call it twist. And here we want to edit the controls, select the numbering 1, go into the controls, slider control, default to 0, -1 and 1, and center will be 0. So now we want to add one last custom tool, and we want the slope to be the background and the blue solid to be the foreground. So now I'm going to paste some math here. So in the displace node, we want to move into the XY and maybe go for example, -1 or whatever. Okay, so now if we look at the displace, we can go into the slope control here and crank up the twist. And as you can see, there is something happening here, very interesting. And we can crank this effect up using the gamma here, and we can use the blur to basically smooth that effect a little bit. I think this is a good result, and look what happens when I move this slope here. I get this twisting motion. Let's add this expression sin, open bracket, time, close bracket. So maybe we want to time divided by 3. Yeah, I think it's better like that. See, it's a very interesting effect. Okay, let's go back to our dragon here and add a blur node. Okay, so let's merge the blur on top of our depth blur there and set merge one to exclusion. And this is what happens. Maybe we want to crank the blur up to 8. And now we're going to use a directional blur. And what we want to do with the directional blur here, let's view the merge one anyway. We want to type in -90 and crank up the length. So we may want to bring it a little bit further, adding a duplicate node. We want to make 20 copies here, and we want to move those 20 copies into the Y, and the blend will be 0.55, and we want to use this new blur. Yes, something like this. I think it's perfect. Maybe a little bit more blur, and let's scale these outward just a touch. Yeah, something like that. Now we want to add a displace node and pipe in our slope here. Okay, in the displace node we want to move to XY again, and again the offset is going to be -0.5, and we want to, as always, link X and Y. Now we want to go into the X offset and play a little bit with that. Something like this, I think, is going to be nice. So So the next step now is going to add a wireless node, link our depth blur here, and then we want to merge the slope and we want to multiply that. Now this one is going to be fed into our create bump map, and we want to add our displace as always, I would say. You know how it works now. In the displace node, XY minus 0.5. Let's crank this one up to 100 and let's have a look. Yeah, this is what we want. Maybe play with the spread a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Now we want to add a brightness contrast. Set the gain to 0.5. 0.5. Merged on top of our flaming dragon and set the blending mode to overlay. Okay, so as you can see, we have a pretty nice fiery look. Now we need to add colors to our black and white image. So now we can use the gradient mapper by Learn Now FX, which is, I think it's a free fuse. I'm not sure, to be honest. Anyway, check that out, but let's learn how it works. You can do that in Fusion using a texture node. Before the texture node, we want to add a brightness contrast and clip the black and the whites. And now it's all about adding a background node. Everything disappeared. Don't worry, watch what happens as soon as I switch back to gradient. Now I can do whatever gradient I want and I'm done. So now I'm going to paste a background that I already prepared, which looks like so. I will show you what the colors are here. If you need, you can pause the video. And copy the values, and yeah, that's it. So at this point I think it's fair to switch on our Gamut viewer LUT, and we want to add an sRGB viewer LUT, and here we want to add another brightness contrast and maybe lower the gamma a little bit and also lower the saturation a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so we want to also add some heat distortion, and for that I'm going to add a, yes, you guessed it, a displace node, and I'm gonna add a fast noise, copy this, create bump map and paste it into the displace node. Again, XY. We want to add the same expression as here. Maybe paste in here. Maybe we want to make it a little bit faster. Go for a very subtle effect. And let's copy these, paste in here, and maybe divided by 3, and add a depth blur. Let's view this one for a second. And add some CD rate here. Yeah, something like that. Looks correct. Maybe 3 is a bit too much. Let's go for 2.5. Yeah. Now we want to add a brightness contrast to clamp the values to black and white. So now we want to go here and set Luma and add some blur. Okay, one thing I forgot to add, which is very important, and that is to add yet another displace node. And yet another create bump map. Again, let's go for 100 here, XY, and link the two. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. Don't be scared. Play with the spread and see this liquidy look that is happening here. Now we are almost done. We might want to add a fast expo glow. Yeah, that looks good. And add a background here. I think something like that looks good. Then we want to add these, you know, this one. I think this one is from Video Copilot. So one thing that we want to do is to remove the gamma. And for that, in this case, I'm going to do that from the loader itself and just click remove gamma here. And I want to merge that one on top of my image. And I want to overlay that on top. And now this is what happens, and we don't want that. So we want to add a brightness contrast. Go into the lift and set it to 0.5. And this is what happens. And now we want to see those embers a little bit more. And for that, in the brightness contrast, just crank the gain up until the desired effect. Yeah, I think that's it. And a couple of the things that we want to do is to add a film grain. Yeah, this is something I like. Let's have a look at our animation just for a second. Yeah, since we have the flames here, just push the animation a little bit down. Yeah, I think it's looking very good. The last thing we want to do is to add a gamut node to basically move back into sRGB, and of course we need to remove the viewer LUT. You might want to add just a little bit of brightness contrast here. Okay guys, so this is the result. As you can see, the effect is pretty cool. It's not exactly a realistic fire simulation, but I think it's nice. Remember that you can, of course, change the input. It only needs to be white with an alpha. That's all you need. So it could be text, it could be a PNG, whatever, you name it. Anyway, I hope you learned something today, and yeah, I think this is a wrap for me. So thank you guys very much for watching, and please consider subscribing if you liked the video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.